All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Outside Line podcast. My name is Jacob Barker, and today I am once again joined by Chris Shoemaker and Mason Wood. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
I'm doing all right. Excited about that race at North Wilkesboro. That was fun.
Heck yeah, that
Absolutely.
was that was that was interesting to say the least and fun. But we will talk about that in just a little bit. Um, we are going to start off with our F1 segments. No Grand Prix from Imola, and as Chris says, Imola. It's been bothering Chris the past two episodes. I know. Maybe one day we'll get the proper terminology down here. Um,
Got to see some Italians at Imola.
out here in North Kakalaki, obviously. Um, so no Grand Prix for F1 this weekend due to this severe flooding um, over in Italy, which is terrible, 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 terrible. And Mason, I know that kind of hits close to you, seeing as you were just there in Italy 2 months ago.
Yeah, getting to see some of the pictures was pretty crazy. And what I was talking to my girlfriend about was how like they were like the Italy's not that big of a country, at least compared to like the United States. Like it's a lot smaller, but it does take a little bit longer because there's a lot of mountain ranges and stuff. And it was interesting because all of the places we never got to that real northern part of Italy, close to Bologna and stuff like that. But when we were down, we went through Venice and Sorrento, so we were kind of all through that middle section there. And most of the time the weather's pretty similar there, but the north side, up on the north, it's completely different weather. And what was interesting about it was that in those areas that we went to, they didn't really receive a ton of rain, but then that northern area up by Bologna and up by where the Grand Prix was happening was just so much more rain. And you saw there was photos of the paddock was just completely underwater. I mean, it was not in a raceable condition, unfortunately. And it was at least a good thing that they were able to let everybody know early, hey, let's just go ahead, pack up, head home before anything bad could happen. Because there was already, I believe, there was two injuries that had happened through the flooding and everything like that. It was very dangerous. So credit to F1 for kind of calling the weekend early and kind of sending everybody home to make sure that everybody and the staff was safe.
Ferrari's probably still there, though, fitting dry tires.
They have to be, because
Oh,
I mean,
and one
I'm
important update from it, though. The Imola cat they have a cat at the racetrack, if you didn't know. And it always hangs around. And if the drivers get visited by the cat, it's good luck. And the cat was reportedly rescued and is completely fine.
well. There you go. Breaking news. I did not know about that cat, so that's interesting. So
And as the show's weatherman, by the way, looking ahead to Sunday's Grand Prix, it's looking like there's going to be some rain throughout the day. So
yep.
this is going to be interesting on Sunday. That's for sure.
I'm looking forward to Monaco. I always look forward to
Absolutely.
Monaco.
Mason, you stole my thunder. I actually had that in my notes. They've got about a
Heh,
60%. They got about a 60% chance of rain on Sunday. So,
stole his
um,
thunder. Rain.
yeah, ha, ha, ha. Funny.
Big
Um,
heavy weather boy.
yeah. So hope that everyone in Italy, yeah, especially as Imola, is okay. Um, I'm very intrigued to see if they will have like a makeup date for this in the future. And Chris, I know that we've been talking about this recently. I'm thinking if they do have a makeup date for this, it'll be during the summer break.
Yeah, probably. And I have seen some people online saying it would be in the middle of August, early mid August. So, yeah, I'd say it's probably going to be during summer break, somewhere around then. I think they have to, almost have to at least.
Yeah, that's what, like I said, that's what I've been thinking. That's what I've been telling you. Um, and because the summer break is about a month long, so maybe if they put it in between, like after what's the last race before the summer break, Spa or Hungary? It's one of those two. So maybe if they put it 2 weeks after the last race before the summer break, have 2 weeks off for then, and then 2 weeks off after that race. Just a thought. So it'd be interesting to see when they can finally make up that date, if they do make up that date, which I highly doubt that they'll just say, screw it, we're not going back there for this year, because that would just be it would just be too much of a shame to not go back there.
And then there's all this kind of legal stuff going on, and they're wrapped up in so much legality in it, and all these lawyers. I think they'd get sued if they didn't have it. Maybe there's something in the fine print or something. I don't know. But with the legal stuff in it, I bet you they would almost be obligated to have it.
Yeah, I would assume there's something in the fine print, because, like I said, it would just be kind of a waste of time to not go back to Imola for the race, especially with how much goes into hosting uh, the top racing series in the world. It would just be too big of a shame,
Yeah.
and you cannot not make up a race like that. That's my opinion. You know, maybe that's some of my NASCAR side coming out of me. I'm not sure, but that's my opinion on that.
I mean, wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. Well, I guess I would be surprised, but I wouldn't, I guess, put it past them because they have skipped big races before. Like for a long time, Imola wasn't on the calendar, and it only got came back on the calendar because of COVID, and it found a new life.
No,
But
you're absolutely right about that.
yeah, and it really wasn't going to be on the calendar anytime soon. So I wouldn't put it past them to maybe ignore it and say we'll try again next year, but I would be a little bit surprised if they do.
Well, let's hope that they don't, because,
Yeah.
um, like I said, it would just be too big of a shame to skip out on a great track like that. Speaking of great tracks, guess where we're going this weekend? Not us, obviously. Formula One is going to Monaco, and as Mason said earlier, they have a chance of rain in the forecast. I'm pretty sure all day Sunday, when I looked at it earlier, but not 100% certain on that. So if if anything showed us last year as to how crazy it can be on inters with the new F1 car, this race is going to be nuts on Sunday.
Yeah, and Monaco and wet conditions is always fun. Monaco to me is always fun because anything can happen. I still remember about 10 years ago, Pastor Maldonado crashed into the barriers right after the Nouvelle chicane. And he didn't just crash into the barriers, he crashed in. And the tire barriers somehow got hooked on his car, and he ended up blocking the track with tire barriers, and they had to red flag it just so they could put the thing back. And if you don't know about Pastor Maldonado, he has a reputation for crashing.
Yes, he does. Um,
And but I still laugh at that.
it's crazy. Yeah, we've seen some big hits at Monaco recently, but we've also had some pretty dud races there as well. I enjoy Monaco. I don't enjoy racing on it in the F1 games because that's scary. One
I
wrong
got
move.
better at Monaco. I used to be terrible, but my last race, I didn't qualify last, and I finished ninth.
We
Hey,
talked about it before.
P9.
Monaco's by far my best track. And Chris, I'm glad to see that you're doing better. So that soon, me and you and Jacob, we can all go head to head, and I can have a nice close competition with you, and Jacob can be like 8 seconds behind us.
You guys will be Kyle Larson of the Also race. I'll just be the Ty Gibbs, just 8 seconds behind. Jeez. Anyway, yeah. So we got Monaco coming up this coming weekend. The first part of the greatest day in racing, and we're not going to stop saying that throughout this episode because it truly is the greatest day in racing. More to come on that later. Last year's winner for Monaco, Sergio Perez. Do we think that's going to change?
I actually think he could do it again just because he's so good at street tracks.
Yeah,
And he's good in the wet too.
Correct. I agree completely. If there's anybody who will have a fighting chance to put it to Red Bull this weekend at Monaco and in the wet, it would be Charles.
I was thinking Alonso because he was talking about that in the last race that the Aston Martin's better suited for tracks like Monaco. And I don't know. I could see him being a dark horse. I think, honestly, I have to say that I believe Alonso would be more likely to win than Charles. Although I love Charles, but I don't know about this Ferrari.
Alonso's got a lot more of the momentum right now.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, Charles might stuff it into turn one.
And he isn't the best at Monaco either. Or he isn't the best at street tracks.
Definitely not. Just look at Baku. He's been terrible there, and it's. I want him to win at Monaco because that's his home track. But with how his past reputation has been at street courses, it's not looking fantastic for him.
What's everybody's top three at Monaco?
Ooh, if I had to go with the top three, it would be I'll go Perez, Alonso, Verstappen.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Perez, Alonso, Verstappen.
That's kind of where I would align. I like Alonso, Perez, Verstappen in that order.
I want that to happen so bad.
It's been over 10 years since his last win.
It has, and it would be very, very cool to see him win in the green and silver this time. Not the red, but the green and silver.
Yeah, and that would be fun. And I remember when he was coming up, I didn't like Alonso because he was beating Schumacher. And Schumacher was my favorite driver growing up. Which now I have a little bit of, I don't know if respect's quite the right word, but appreciation. I have a lot more appreciation for Alonso.
There you go. So yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say that's my top three. That's actually our picks for the top three. I was going to talk about the F1 2023 game if you guys are ready for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
That looks fine, honestly.
Well, here's the thing. We said that about last year too, and it turned out to be horrible. But
I enjoyed it.
As
Okay.
do I. Like video games are one of those things where like you can dislike it, but you can also like end up enjoying it at the same time.
It's
I'm a
true.
Madden player, and I hate the game, but I put a lot of time into it. So I'm one of those people. So you might be right. It might be a bad game. I'll still play it.
That's true. No, you're absolutely right. Um, so F1 2023 is releasing June 16th. So that is will be 3 weeks from this coming Friday. Uh, I'm highly anticipating this game. Looks very good. The HUD looks very clean, a lot cleaner than last year.
Red
And
flags.
red flags. I was about to say the exact same thing.
We needed red flags. I think that might clean up some of the bugs, actually.
I hope so, because we can't have the safety car bugs that we had last year in F1 2022. That can't happen anymore. Just stupid stuff like that just can't happen anymore. So I agree with you, Chris. I'm really hoping that's the red flags will clean up some of the bugs that are in that game.
Also, red flags, just the idea is fun, too.
Oh, very much so.
They said that you get to
And
change your car during the red flag. You can make some adjustments and stuff like that. So there's a lot of cool things that it can add to your Grand Prix that you're racing. So the development of it, and hopefully there's no bugs that come along with it. But it's definitely going to be a cool feature that'll be used.
I wonder how that's going to work in multiplayer, because I can see players somehow taking advantage of the red flags. If it will be in multiplayer.
I don't know. I have a feeling it won't be in online multiplayer because that'll be too overpowered. Career mode definitely. It'll 100% be in career mode, but online multiplayer I'm not sure.
I did see something interesting today, though. They had this might be photoshopped. I don't know. I didn't look too deep into it, but they showed like free agency, some of the free agent drivers on there, and two of them were Kamui Kobayashi and Pastor Maldonado, which makes me wonder who else could be there.
Interesting. It's very, very interesting. But we will find out on June 16th when the game fully releases.
Can I say one thing I'm really excited for?
Yes.
I know it might be controversial, but the whole F1 World thing, which is basically their answer to like the Ultimate Team, I think that could be very interesting because, at least for myself, and I know there's other people out there as well, like I enjoy racing games and I play them usually throughout their entire cycle, but usually I only end up playing career mode and then hopping into multiplayer races every now and then. So the idea of this F1 World game mode, it kind of adds something to the game, and it kind of gives me more of it gives you more of a reason to continue playing kind of throughout a yearly cycle. So I'm very intrigued and I'm very open to the idea because it's been talked about with NASCAR quite a few times as well. And I've always said that would help the longevity and the lifespan of the game, whether or not it's a good thing or not. So this is an interesting thing to kind of test out, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not it works for the game or whether or not it ends up kind of being something that people like view Madden along the same terms with Madden's Ultimate Team, where it's kind of just a cash grab. Where does F1 World kind of fall in line? That's going to be the interesting part about this year's F1 game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's worth a try. I personally, I don't think it's going to go well, and I think they're going to catch a lot of flack for it. Mainly because I believe they'll catch flack for it because it's EA. But aside from that, I don't know, and I have a feeling they'll get in trouble with loot boxes somehow.
the all controversial. It's sad because like it's extremely controversial, and most every point everybody makes is 100% true. I was 16 years old spending money to open packs on Madden on a Saturday morning, and believe it or not, I pulled some good players. I'll never forget pulling a 95 overall Amon Green in Madden 16. Greatest Saturday morning ever. I pulled two back-to-back of limited edition ones. It'll never happen to me again. because I'll never spend money on packs again.
Amen.
What would you
Amen.
all like to see in an F1 game, a future F1 game?
It's tough. Like if you're trying to get in like a new game mode, like I've always been a fan of the CHL, like the CA or whatever the NHL's like extra game mode is. I think it's Chell, CHEL. They have
Shell,
Chell.
yeah.
So they have Chell, and then you have like the NBA has like the My City or the My Park and that sort of thing. So that sort of thing has always been intriguing to me. Now, how you would include that in an F1 game would be very difficult because you have to include that somewhere with F1. I think like in a general racing game, that sort of thing would work, but it's difficult. Like if you're trying to add in a new game mode, you're limited to an extent to things that the fan base would enjoy, the fan base wants to see. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, what about you, Jacob?
I think, and it's kind of tough because I don't think it'll ever happen. My dream, like, and it's not a story mode like how Breaking Point is with the previous F1 games, but you have your My Team career mode, but you start in F3 as a development driver, work your way up to F2, work your way to F1, sign with a team like, I don't know, Aston Martin your first couple years, and then you start your own team in the field.
Yeah, that I would like that just because that would give you a little bit of options when you're in regular career mode. Because that's the main reason why I don't play the regular career mode all that much. Because I want to I want to customize something for it to be mine, you know. And at the same time, though, I want the ability to say maybe leave my own team and say race for Ferrari. But I think my biggest thing is make my team a little bit deeper and maybe add some customization with regulation changes, like maybe even points system changes or uh, tracks or something like that, kind of something similar to what they do with F1 Manager. And another thing I would like to see is, have y'all ever played F1 2010?
No.
Well, F1 2010 was really cool in the fact that it was very first person focused. Like you could, like the main menu of it was you were there in the paddock, and it's a first person thing where you're just standing there in the paddock, and you have all these people around you, and it felt very alive. And I think it would be really cool to somehow bring that back and maybe even have the ability to walk around the paddock and do a little bit of exploring and maybe have bring back interviews, stuff like that.
Yeah, just the problem with that is EA.
Mm.
I
And
don't
that's
think I'll
hard
ever.
to implement too.
Well,
Exactly.
2K did something that obviously these are very different, and it would take a lot more effort to put into the F1 sort of thing. But 2K has a sort of thing where when you play the career mode, you basically get to like before games, you walk around and like when you want to go play a new game in the career mode, you start like your character's at the front of the stadium, like you just got off the bus or you just got out of your car, and then you got to walk through like down the aisle where all the media is, and then you got to like walk your character into the locker room, and then you can either like do an interview or you can add things to your character, and then you can get dressed for warm-ups and stuff like that. And then after the game, you then walk back through the tunnel, you go right back to your locker. You always have to do an interview after games, and then sometimes they're either at your locker or other times you got to walk down to the press room and you sit down at the press thing and you do an interview there. That sort of thing included in the F1 could be exactly what you're talking about, Chris, that could absolutely draw more people in.
Yeah, and just it's immersive.
Mm-hmm.
immersion. But no, seriously. Then I think they really too. I think they really need to bring back interviews because I thought that was a cool thing. And the biggest thing I'd like to see, one of the biggest things, is a rivalry system, like in
I mean,
NASCAR.
technically they did have that in past games, but it was only like where you would win your rivalries off points or whatever it was.
I don't like they had the rivalry system in F122, and I don't like the rivalry system in there, especially because like they only let you choose from like 3 rivals, and it's only for like a set amount of races. And so I know like when I play the game, like my team is there's levels, right? And you have like Red Bull, they're on their own level, and same with like I think Lewis Hamilton and them are on their own level up there as well. And then there's me along with like the rest of the teams. And so then it wants me to have a rivalry with those guys. And I'm like, that's awesome. But they have 100 points more than me in the championship. Why is that my rival? Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I have the rival with? Why can't I rival with the guy that's 9 points behind me? What's wrong with that? So the rivalry system definitely needs tuning up for sure.
Oh yeah, I've been running into that too. Like I'm like 9th, I think, currently in my championship, and it wants me to rival up with Lewis Hamilton, who's like 4.
It's done that for me too, and I'm like, I'm not. Why? Like,
I tried it because I did here and there finish above him, but I got blown out of the water.
yeah, because then it's at the tracks that you're like you kind of struggle at, and you're like, oh, that's awesome. Like finally, I have a chance to beat him, and he wins all 3 races. You know.
Or you DNF because technical issues.
That is a thing as well.
But what I'm thinking is more of a friends and rival system like NASCAR Heat and even NASCAR Thunder way back when.
I think that would work. I did like the NASCAR Heat 5 sort of rivalry system. My only issue I ever had with it was that like it's very 2023 NASCAR style where like if you make somebody your rival, they are basically going to like try to destroy your vehicle every time you drive past them. So like I remember like I was so Tyler Reddick and I in my NASCAR Heat 5 career mode did not get along. And he was always up at the front, and me and him he tried to like literally kill me every single time I got near him. And so it got to a point where like in real life, like I did not like him for a couple of months simply because I was like, you're such a jerk. And then eventually I got over it because I stopped playing the game. But it was like no matter what I did, he would try to wreck me. So like if they could just fine tune it and then they could add that sort of thing, because then you have your friends who they come up to you and they're like, all right, let's bump draft, or they help you out or something like that. And those guys were always helpful. So if they fine tune that, especially with some of the newer technologies these days with AI and stuff like that, definitely a possibility for sure.
Yeah, although only bad thing about F1, you can't have drivers go full Dale Earnhardt on you to try to rattle your cage.
No, that would be that. That's the main difference between those two games. I mean, I like to do it in the game, and then I get the warning, stop hitting Verstappen.
Exactly.
I'm like, I want to hit Verstappen. I enjoy watching him fly into the grass.
That was me with Mazepin.
Mazepin.
Max always qualifies bad in mine, so he ends up in like 6th, and I qualify good, so I'm up in like 3rd. So I torment him because I do not let him get past me, and I'm obviously not as fast, so he just gets held up, and then there's just a big line of cars behind us, and it's lovely the entire race.
That happened to me with my last race, and then I remember one time I was racing there at Paul Ricard, and I got a terrible start, and there was a whole pile up behind me, and it took out like 7 cars or something because I had such a terrible start. And I halfway wanted to restart just because it was so bad. But at the same time, I was like, I want to see how this race is going to play out. I ended up going with it. But That was funny. And that's a time when you need red flags, when something like that happens.
So, moral of the story: F1 2023 better have a competitive rivalry system, and better be good. Just
It better
flat
be
out
different
simple.
from last year. That's all it needs
Correct.
to be.
And
Correct.
why did they take away interviews, anyways? To me, that never made sense.
That was one of my favorite parts about the original games. So it's unfortunate that they take it away. But as I said, I'm a Madden player. I am fairly used to losing features over the years. So
There you go.
And
So,
the interviews were much better in F1 2010, too. They were very immersive. And they asked actually a lot better questions, too. Like, and the interview AI, I guess you could say, was a lot better and would ask relevant questions, except uh, then as opposed to, say, Claire saying, the girl that interviews you saying, when you finished 16th, that was a good day today. What was your take on it? That would always annoy me.
especially because there's no way to like Tony Stewart it and be like, "What's wrong with you?" It's like the only response I would like, because that's what I like. Whenever that would happen, I look up at I'm like, "What's wrong with you? Like, why? Like, for what? You think you're funny?"
all right, shall we move on before you guys blow a gasket?
Sure.
Or pull a Kimi.
Exactly. So yes, Monaco this coming Sunday, and F1 2023 is releasing on June 16th. Not sponsored, but I'm going to say this anyway. Get your copies pre-ordered now. If not, you're not going to get a copy. Period. Obviously.
Buy it now, or I guess you
Or-
won't have it if you don't buy it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, there's no way to buy it digitally or anything, you know.
No.
Honestly, I'm going to wait for a sale just because
Is
I hate buying games full price.
for $70 these days? Yeah, it's like when
Yep.
it was $60, it was like, all right, maybe you know I'm in. But now that they're $70, it's like, look, man, that's a bit steep. That's a bit out of my price range. I have blown through the last like 4 video game releases that I've wanted and haven't bought them simply because of that $10 price change.
About to
Is
say
it on
just
PS4?
It should be, I would imagine.
Should be.
Most games don't have that. They haven't gone through and made it so it's only available on the new consoles and not on the later consoles, especially the sports games. Most of them are still kind of that cross gen. I have encountered very few games that are only available on the new gen consoles.
If it is, this might be the very last year it's on PS4.
I think so.
Sony has been saying that they're not going to make any more PS4 games after, I think, next year or this year.
The day is coming close. A lot of it was because there were so many production issues with the newer consoles, so people had a hard time getting their hands on them. But now that you're seeing that kind of slow down and you're able to more so walk into the Walmart near you and pick up a PS5, it's made it a lot easier for them to kind of make that decision.
I'm still not quite sold on the PS5. I don't know. We're getting off topic anyway.
We're getting off topic. Like I said, F1 2023 releases June 16th. So that's coming out in just a couple weeks. But for now, let's talk about IndyCar.